like to know what was discussed. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will call this meeting to order tonight at 6 p.m. We will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have a packed house in here tonight, and it's always a fun night. Real quickly, I just want to acknowledge that board representatives in attendance tonight are Director Madigan, Director Tracy, and Director Kinsler. We have Director Thibodeau and Director Milo that are out this evening. And with that, we will get started. We would love to have Mr. David Berkower and the drumline come to the podium, please. Our drumline, sorry. As their outstanding achievement of the Orting High School drumline with the Lincoln Invitational. I have to admit that the Lincoln Invitational didn't really stand out to me. I didn't understand what it was, but when I learned, I was thrilled. This is like the state championships of drumline, and so fantastic showing. They took first, which is a remarkable accomplishment and reflects the hard work and commitment of the students, but also highlights the unwavering support and guidance provided by our dedicated instructor, Mr. David Berkower. So thank you so much. We're immensely proud of our band members for their outstanding performance. I would, not only are you all going to play a piece for me, but I would love it if we could get Mr. Gabe to come up and maybe give us a little something about the pieces that you chose. I understand that you have written some pieces too, and would like to know if those were one of the pieces you performed.
Yes. Would you like me to come now?
Yeah, if you could, that would be great.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just kind of all over. I'm not used to sitting in this seat, so that'd be great.
And you were an assistant at Native Cross Authority.
Yeah, I was.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so last year at our last Lincoln Invitational, we also ended up playing a few of my songs. And honestly, one of the main inspirations for that was, I just fell in love with music, and I'm very thankful to Broker actually for his support and my ambitions with creating music. So once we got second place last year, I was like, oh, we're so bringing this home for my last year, right? So I spent a lot of time crafting something that I specifically thought that our drumline members would enjoy, I was the one who wrote it, but if it wasn't for their support and tailoring it to exactly what I knew, something that they would like to play, I don't think it would have turned out as good. So I do, and I'm very thankful for their help. But it was always a dream of mine, especially because I started in 6th grade. That was my first real taste of what drumline was, and I fell in love with the process. And I knew one day we're going to take home first place, right? So when I heard our name, there's videos online. All of us cheered, jumped, screamed, and then not to mention our last competition. When I gave them the music, I had a little bit of fun with it. I called it Project Clean Sweep because I told them we were going to take home every single trophy that was offered. And we weren't able to do that for Lincoln. We did get 2, which I was very, very happy about. But for our last competition, we took both. So I was also able to live that dream out, which was something very big to me. So I'm glad we ended up taking this year on a big, going out and bang. And I know all these guys are going to do even more amazing things next year, and I can't wait to personally watch that. But what you're about to see is our amazing performance. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Might be a little loud.
Are we doing?
You want to switch?
What? We can't hear what drum line.
All right, well, I don't know about you, I'm a little sleepy.
Guys, no! You can't be falling asleep again. These drums, I've told you many times, they cannot play themselves. Okay.
every other Lincoln invitation.
Really?
That was outstanding, truly. Gosh, the beats of your drum have kind of slowed down the beating of my heart. So thank you. We do have some certificates for you all, and some treats.
And we would love to gather a photo with you all in the board of directors, so if you could maybe find a space for the instrument, we kind of want to gather around this area and try to get in one photo if it's possible to put that down.
Yeah, instruments down.
I'm gonna go have a shower. I'm still gonna go home and shower.
Just amazing, you guys. Just amazing.
So maybe we can get you guys to come down this way and
Oh, yes. I'm just
come
gonna
over
picture all
here.
the
Right? You want to oh yeah, you need to get the trophy. Who's holding the trophy?
Gabe needs to.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know.
Nice.
All right, gather in, board, students, cluster together, come on in. Parents, if you'd like a photo, you can do that too.
So if we can get some of the students down on your knees, let's put the trophy in center, and then let's spin the rest of our board around.
That's good.
I just don't know where to
I know.
Hayden, sweetie, come over here so you can balance out the photo. And then, Broker, everybody follow Broker. I need Broker to step to his left, 2 steps, and then everybody come in. Come, scoot, yep, follow. A little bit more, keep scooting. Ian, sweetie, I need you in the center with that backdrop, a little bit more. All right, Ian and Broker now come in, and now we're good.
That is perfect. Okay, count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice. I'm gonna take a couple of them. Oh no.
All right, one more.
Awesome. Stay there. I'm gonna scoot over just a little bit. Okay. All right, that's awesome. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Yeah, it is hot.
I know what you're saying. Sleepy time. Oh, come on, Shannon! Basics do not go last. That's simple. Let's go.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
Let me see it.
I want the videos of a couple of friends who are professional drummers. And I just would go, this is what we've got.
We've got talent, yes we do. Gosh, how do you follow that? But not to be outdone, we would actually like to extend an invitation tonight for our OEA co-presidents, Ben Peterson and Brittany Smith, and OEA Special Education Committee Chair, Karen Reynolds, to please join us at the podium. A lot easier. Each year, we set aside a special week. This year was May 6th through 10th to share our gratitude for the unwavering dedication of our Ording Education Association staff. While we recognize and value their efforts every day, last week served as an opportunity to spotlight their commitment to Ording's kids. Tonight, we want to show appreciation for the tireless effort and hard work our certificated staff play in our community. Thank you for your dedication and for choosing Ording. So, yes.
As a retired teacher, I just have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for teaching my grandson. Thank you for the wonderful lesson that Michaela shared about the interview with your uncle, or was it a cousin? That was an amazing teaching moment. And Brittany is not only my friend, but someone I got to work with and sub for. And I can't say enough about what a great person she is. And thank you. You make me proud.
Thank you. And we do have some little thank yous.
Sorry, Melissa, I just...
No, you're... It's not nearly enough for us to express our gratitude and our thanks for everything that you do, but we hope that you can feel the love and appreciation behind the intent. Thank you so much.
How'd you know?
And we would love to grab a photo.
And a
with you as
photo.
well.
Thank you.
Right over here. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. That's good. All right, so let's read it.
Scooch in? Yeah.
No, okay, I'm just trying to... There you go.
See if we can catch him. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I can't wait to show JJ the picture of you and I in the same picture. He's going to be surprised at that.
You don't have to stay if you don't want to. If you'd like to.
I was gonna say,
Get out while the getting's good.
I think this is about the time that we excuse any staff that doesn't want to stay for the entire meeting. However, you're always welcome to stay.
Especially for calendar, right, Kai?
Yeah, we got a while though, so.
So those were two very intentional highlights for the evening, but there are other celebrations as well. I'll start with the, we had our first district-wide Cultural Unity Fair at the middle school on Thursday, May 2nd. I was available to go and went, and it was, I guess I didn't know what to expect exactly, but it was phenomenal. All the food, the tables, the students and the teachers that were there, and then the performances in the gym. I didn't know that that was going to be going on, and once you got a hold of the performances, you didn't want to go back to the food. So it was a great night. Many different cultures presented, and it was well done. And as good as that was, I have a feeling that as we move forward, it's going to get even better and better. So that was a very exciting thing to have and to see. I love having
I got
that.
the last cup of the pig last night.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like so good. I'd just like to mention that Central Pierce Fire Station and Rescue came to visit the Ording Elementary students and the kindergarten, and they taught them some lessons about fire and what kids can do in those situations. And you know how little kids always love firefighters, so it was really fun for them. They got to interact with them, and it was a really nice thing to do. So I thank the Pierce Central for coming and visiting with the students.
We also had the high school with their annual spring college and career fair. That's always kind of one of my favorite things, to see the kids be able to get to attend. And I don't know if they did it this year, I'm kind of assuming so. I think last year they opened it up to grades other than just juniors and seniors. So I like that kids from freshmen all the way up are able to actually attend that event. It's a pretty neat thing. And then, of course, Teacher Appreciation Week. We have the 3 representatives here tonight, but for all of our teaching staff, the passion, commitment, and support that you give boarding kids is we are immensely grateful for that.
And I saw the picture with the pig noses again, so that means that the FFA went and visited Ptarmigan Ridge and OES, and I love that. I love all that they're doing in FFA anyway, but I love the picture of the little kids with their little pig noses on. So.
Anything else to mention? All right, I'm sure there's many more things we could celebrate, but we will be here all night. So the next item on the agenda tonight is community and staff comments, and I don't believe we have any public comments tonight. Thank you, Bonnie. So going right next into superintendent's report.
Thank you, Director Kinsler. The first thing I'd love to share is just what stemmed from the Cultural Unity Fair. We met Sydney at the Cultural Unity Fair. She's a senior,
Yes.
has her own business focusing on treats, and we said, how would you like to help us celebrate the staff at Ptarmigan Ridge and Orting Middle for helping to work to close the achievement gap and accelerate learning, moving multiple tiers of improvement down the scale? And she said yes. So the left picture is one of her specially created, designed caramel cupcakes that she made, and it was actually phenomenal. The salted caramel was incredible. She made Death by Oreo, red velvet, German cheesecake, and vanilla. And we spent Tuesday of this week visiting both staff and sharing how have they worked to make that growth and improvement, particularly around multi-language learners at PTR, and decreased the gaps and accelerated our move out of the tiers of improvement. And she did a wonderful job, and of course staff felt, I think, very appreciated and honored that we came to visit. So we're looking forward to more opportunities to taste her sweets. So now we have Lahua with her student-led business in Sydney, so we got a couple people to draw from.
She was my second grade student.
Sydney was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can be proud. That's where she learned her skills.
We did do cooking.
Did you really?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Well, the salted caramel, I will tell you, is perfection. As a system, we always look to try to minimize the impact on cost to the taxpayer and the public. To date, over the last few years, we have received over $330,000 in PSC matching grant funds to move towards more energy efficient products. A couple summers ago, we started replacing lights at Orting Middle and Ptarmigan Ridge, and those have a return on investment to the taxpayer in about a year and a half. So in a very relatively short amount of time, because of how much grant money we received, that cost that we paid for the materials is turned back into money saved for the taxpayer. Right now, our boiler went out, one of our 2 boilers at Ptarmigan Ridge, and Curtis got about a $70,000 grant. The boiler itself cost about $100,000, so the majority is born out of that grant funding, and it moves our efficiency rate from about 80%. Remember, that facility was built in the early 2000s to a 98% efficient model. So we just signed that purchase order recently. That'll happen relatively soon. And we also have matching grant funds to help replace lights at Orting High School with LED lights. So all of those savings not only reduce the cost of the taxpayer, but they actually will result in energy savings, where our portion that we're paying for will return that investment within a year and a half to 6 years. So we're excited about Curtis and his opportunities to help save some money. Thought I'd share some photos of Cultural Unity Fair. This is the first time in, to my knowledge, Orting Middle School's history and the district's history that the Puyallup tribe has done a performance inside our schools. So there we have Tysa Tyacum. His son was, we recognized him as one of our wrestlers that participated in the state just a few months ago. He and other drummers performed a song, and that was a wonderful treat to kick off the Cultural Unity Fair. And that really brought all of our schools together with various songs, performances, dances. So it was nice to see that cross-school connection and really come together and celebrate language, art, food. The high school prepared 15 different tables from foods from around the world. We had staff work to not only barbecue luau pork on our site from pork that our students raised, wrapped in over 90 pounds of banana leaves, so that was cool and that was a hit. We had lumpia made by some of our families, as well as fry bread from Ty's mother. She helped to create and cook the fry bread and serve that while he was doing the performance. So it was a wonderful night. There you can see some of our middle school art that was just phenomenal. We had tables to color, quite a variety of things that were for all kids, all ages. The only complaint I heard, and Jaden can help me with this, the word on the street is the high school students ate a lot of the food relatively early. So the elementary kids showed up about 6 to perform, and they're like, where's all the food? So we might need to work on a little bit more food next year. That's the only complaint I heard for the night.
I do have to shout out the principals, because every single principal and vice principal were there, and Principal Matt Carlson and Cliff Reeves were washing dishes at late into the night, and it's like, that's going, you know, above what they are called to do, so I just think that was really cool to see them all there and all working like that, so.
Well, there's enough positive support. I think you'll continue with that all-school participation next year and just try to continue to expand and build on it. Wonderful participation across the district. College Career Fair, again, 9th through 12th grade, you mentioned that. We had trades represented, we had local businesses represented, 2-year, 4-year tech school, really trying to get kids thinking about options and pathways. And you heard Principal Freeze talk about Summit for the last couple of years of board work sessions. That's a common part of the vernacular. Where are you going and how do we help you get there? And it was just a wonderful experience to see all of our students there. I think there were about 60 different attendees, if I'm not mistaken. We did hire and offer a position subject to your approval, new assistant principal at Orting Elementary, Abigail Finney. We pushed comms in the last month. She'll be coming to us from Bonnie Lake Sumner School District, and we're excited to have her on board. I heard great things from the interview committee, and the reference checks were just absolutely stellar. So I think she'll bring a lot of positivity to that school and help us continue to grow. Thinking about the agency, how do we do that? Drumline is a perfect example, student-led, student-created events. High school students really helped to partner in building that Littles Fair, so activities and events that they've created, designed, and are leading our elementary students. Many of those pictures are out on social media, but I wanted to share a few with you just so you can see the excitement, the smiles, how much fun that was, not only for the high school students, but for our elementary students as well. Farm for Kids is back. There's the pig noses you referenced. Those are our returning national championship, the Farm for Kids team. They qualified for nationals last year. There they are working with our own elementary students, getting them excited about agriculture, industry, and how to get involved locally. Hit for the kids, and of course they love the pig noses. Right now we're working on Student Spotlight, elevating student voice. That's a component of the agency and the vision that you set as a district. Trying to really get not only senior voice, but what's the connection to their summit and how do they plan to get there? So we just, no particular reason highlighting Gracie, but we have several people that responded to Brittany's call out. If you'd like your senior elevated, send us a pic, send us some information, and so we'll continue that press. And that'll be a strong feature in our spring newsletter as well, really highlighting the accomplishments of our senior class. Graduation's coming up in just a few short weeks. That didn't really show up too well. Better on your computer. Kian Squires just performed a little while ago. He took some phenomenal pictures. He was up the early dawn hours of just the light show that was just incredible. We feature that on our social media page because it was so powerful. We had a 9th grader, 12th grader send some photos in, and we wanted to just push that out there and showcase the talent that our students have. Not only tonight, but on an ongoing basis, and we just want to get more voice, more talent, more showcasing as a component of that agency and that belonging. We did wrap up Certificated Staff Appreciation Week. There's Ms. Brittany and others of her colleagues. And it's not just about teachers, it's about all the certificated staff. So the week has the vernacular teacher appreciation, but it's more than that. It's our nurses, our SLPs, OTs, PTs, our specialists, our TOSAs. They can't do what they do in the classroom without all of that support wrapping around. So we tried to get a lot of that positivity out there, and we had actually community members recognizing and highlighting different staff across the district, so we wanted to elevate that out. So there's just a few of the pictures that we put out in the last week. There are a lot more than that. And wrapping it up and fitting not only for the week we celebrated, but for the work he's doing in the classroom, there is Elliot Scaife, middle school teacher. He is not only our Culture Club advisor, but one heck of a teacher in the classroom. And I wanted to highlight this. This was an article that ran in the Tacoma News Tribune about a week ago, but I think you'll see the quote that they shared from what they learned visiting our system very much aligned to the vision you cast around agency, belonging, connection, a place, quote, where students feel heard, valued, appreciated because of who they are. It's a place where they can feel a sense of camaraderie, connection, and belonging. And if that doesn't embody what we're trying to do as a system, I don't know what does. So I wanted to highlight that not only as a tribute to Elliot and the work he's doing in the classroom and his recognition as a BIPOC trailblazer, but just a capturing of what we're trying to do as a system in our work to elevate students. And that concludes my report. I'm sure Jaden will have a few more things to add because things have been busy at the high school in this last month.
It was a very nice article.
Welcome back to Let's See What Johnny knows. I know track has been doing pretty good. There's still a few students that are running somewhere. I don't know what they call it, state or something. I don't know. But they're doing good. We had the STEM Lab actually launch some rockets this Wednesday, I believe. And the elementary school has actually got to come over and watch, and I was there watching that. It was really cool to watch. It kind of makes me want to take a STEM class now. But that was pretty cool. Let's see what else. I know Fast Pitch is wrapping up, but they are going to districts, or I believe they started districts. So that's pretty good for them. I think that's it. Because I normally have Michaela here to back it up, but
You only have Michaela for one more
That's
meeting.
right.
Thank you, Jaden. That then wraps up the student rep report. Next on our agenda is the financial report, prepared by Marcy Bannon. Was there any questions, conversation?
Sorry, Marcy.
Next item on our agenda is the end of year progress report, presented by our cabinet staff.
Good evening. So we are here tonight to talk about the new posters we're going to print in spite of Ed's objections. We want to make sure that he wants to spend a little bit of money, so we're going to talk about that tonight. The first page you can see behind me, there's up there. I think the evolution of the strategic plan is really in the front page here. We'll see that the centering of students and the pictures of students there is pretty interesting. I think it's great. I've been all over the state this year and looking at different districts, and I've looked at different strategic plans as well, like I said during our board work session. And one thing that's unique about us is our focus on students. It's really reflected on this. I'll be really interested to see what happens after we run out of the last word in power next year, but that's another poster, right? There we go. So the first page is different. The second page is the same as it was in the previous years. It's a welcome poster, which you see all over our buildings. The third page is a letter by Ed, which is pretty much the same as well. That's not changing at all. It's just Ed's really vision for the district moving forward, that he's really summarizing what the board is really thinking about for our strategic work. The next page is who we are, who we serve. Those numbers have been updated as our district grows. Of course, the numbers are getting bigger. I was actually surprised to see that we have 19 languages spoken throughout our district. That's very surprising, but actually we're really okay. So the next page has someone I think is pretty attractive up there on the left-hand side. Maybe you recognize them, I don't know, it looks pretty good to me. But this is really the profile of our students, our staff, and our leaders. Really our values around the people that are here. Strong relationships, being empowered, really talk a lot about our staff members, loving students, being connected, believing that they make a difference, and our leaders are really committed to equity, which is great. And then that servant mindset is there. So that hasn't changed at all either. Next page is really our theory of action, which hasn't changed either. We really talk about that rigorous learning, which is throughout really all of this. We talk about agency and dignity. Those words pop up time and time again. Those are two values as a board that you're really promoting throughout this plan. We talk about equity throughout that. In this case, equity is really a guarantee that we're looking at together. And agency and dignity are defined just as they were in the past as well. Our mission, vision, and core values are the same as well. The mission is really the purpose and what we're doing now. It's really the vision that we have for the work that's going on currently. We talk about the unique interests and talents of our students. We talk about those relevant opportunities that we want to offer students as well. And there's the three words that you see all over our district: that connected, inspired, empowered. That's our mission. Our vision is, what do we want to be? What's our aspiration? So aspirationally, we want to have high expectations, which it's like we have everywhere. We really want to really emphasize the innovation, and we want to keep innovating as we move forward. We're going to look at the meaningfulness of our instruction and our learning. We want to make a difference in our students' lives, and we want to emphasize the relationship and that vision as well moving forward. Our core values, we have 4 of those. The first value is really around growth. And by the way, these haven't changed at all, so that's good. Our core values haven't changed. The second one is that we talked about our strengths. Our differences are our strengths. Our diversity is really important to us. The third one really talks about removing barriers for learning, and the last one's really around connection. You'll notice on these goals, this is where my colleagues here will go over. You'll notice that we have slightly different looks to what this is. And by the way, we need to really thank Brittany for the layout of this. She did a fantastic job of laying this out. It's the most beautiful strategic plan I've ever seen. Our students are not only featured, but it looks really good. But you'll notice that we have not only the goal list, the wording of the goal is exactly the same. The thing that's different is that we have an equity statement there. And what that does is provide us focus and coherence around what equity looks like for that goal. It gives us direction to go. You'll also see the measures of progress and the tools we're going to use, which is slightly different as well, but it's just an articulation of what we had before. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
So on book 1, academic growth, what I'd like to highlight for you relative to this part of the plan is getting back to what Aaron said about the equity statement. Really important to kind of emphasize that our idea that in academic growth, there's some key phrases and words in there, like kids leading their own learning journey and their uniqueness is being honored and elevated. That we're building confidence and we're also ensuring accountability with them and for them. And really that last statement in the equity statement where it just talks about each student. And that's really our focus as we're leading into that. When we talk about the factors that go into academic growth, there's a lot that we could speak to, but I'd like to just focus on 2 key areas, and that would be content and pedagogy. And maybe a more equitable way of describing that would be the what and the how. So when we're looking at trying to identify the kind of content that our kids need and what we need to provide for them, we do that through a lens of what I would like to consider building teacher agency in our process of doing that. And using teacher agency and dignity, because if we're elevating teacher agency and dignity, ultimately that elevates student agency and dignity. And what that looks like is in selecting the what, we use teachers to make those decisions. We provide guidance for them and the necessary potential professional learning that they need to make an informed decision. And then when they make that decision, based on the work that they've done with that, we honor that decision. And when I get to the curriculum adoption proposal, I'll give you an example tied to elementary math. So what our kids need, we know, and as we're looking through this lens of academic growth, the kind of curricular content needs, when you think about math, I would say we need to lean more into teaching math in a way that develops conceptual Velcro. So we focus a lot on procedural math and algorithms and different things like that, but the math that kids need now is really that conceptual base, so we're looking for materials that do that. In ELA, we're really focusing on reading comprehension and writing that elevates student voice. That would be some of the targets that we're looking for there. Science, we're looking at curriculum that engages them in inquiry-based learning and really builds their capacity to engage as a scientist would. An author talks about the work that we're doing is building intelligence over intellect. Intellect is the ability to have all that knowledge. Intelligence is the right way to use it. And that's really what we're focusing on. So we know that curriculum is not a magic wand in itself. It's really a tool. And therefore, the process of the work that we do around increasing pedagogy or the skill is we're developing craftsmen, you know, in the use of that tool. So that's when we talk about using the how. We recognize that in the work that we've been doing that the teacher learning around this area really starts with understanding the standards more deeply. The more deeply we understand the standards, the more we understand the rigor, the more we can analyze the kind of tasks that we're giving kids, the way we can assess kids for the level of understanding that they have based on their grade level standards. As we've been doing some of our literacy curriculum, we've been kind of leaning into the current brain research on reading development and how kids learn to read. And what that has done is that sort of challenged us a little bit because that's kind of some new learning, which means teachers have to do some unlearning to build capacity for that new learning. In math, what that unlearning might look like when we're trying to develop conceptual Velcro, maybe a practice that we've had for quite some time, that we think it's building math fluency is timed math tests. Well, we understand now that that's not really what math fluency is about. It's not about speed. It's about kids' ability to flexibly use the kind of mathematical strategies and tools. And so some of this stuff, first of all, the timed math tests, they don't really measure fluency. And secondly, they're really not equitable. Some kids are really fast at math and some kids are not. We tend to lean on a Stanford professor by the name of Jo Boaler, and she, in her books and writings, she talks about herself as she was a slow math student. And then she also uses a neuroscientist who's an award-winning neuroscientist who did math very, very slow. So we're working into the pedagogy side of things, trying to change that. As far as developing professional learning for teachers, with our Bookworms curriculum, we provided several days of expert training in that area, working with teacher teams to develop their understanding and their depth of understanding in literacy instruction. In our middle school math, we spent the year leaning in professional development for them to understand illustrative math. And I mentioned to you before, illustrative math kind of approaches math differently, where a traditional way would be the teacher demonstrates something, the kids practice it, they practice it all together as a group, and then kids work on it individually. And illustrative math flips that on its head. The teacher puts something out there for kids to work with and think about, and then they work with it each other, and then the teacher kind of drills it home. So there's some training around that. We did send another group of secondary teachers down to Stanford recently to do some more training in math from Jo Boaler and crew in the UQ camp. And we have a current group of 6-12 educators that are looking into our science program, being led by Denise Thompson, really trying to get into the next generation standards and the 3D science and really kind of building that. Out of that will probably come some curriculum suggestions next year or the year after. We are sending some teachers and some elementary principals to a training this summer called Building Mathematically Thinking Classrooms. And I highlight that because I will be proposing a curriculum adoption for you tonight, and again, that is just a tool. So just having new curriculum in teachers' hands is not the magic wand. The magic wand still continues to be the teacher and how they present that material. So this training allows multiple different kinds of strategies of empowering kids and putting them in the driver's seat and engaging and elevating their agency. And that's really the big idea. So as through our process of looking for curriculum and pushing into the training, we are really trying to elevate teachers' agency, their ability to do what needs to be done for each one of their kids. And when we do that, then that actually has a default effect really to kids. It's really the way to go for that. So then we'll move on to goal number 2. I didn't do anything here, but.
Okay, goal 2, so community partnerships and connections. So just kind of wanting to make that come alive a little bit. What do we mean by that? So really it's about forging relationships with families and the community all in the support of students. And what does equity look like in that? It's really building that strong supportive network across the system. And then some of the measures, I know you can also read those in the document, but it's really about our community accessing resources. So do we have that partnership that where they actually know where to get things and be able to utilize them? Surveys that we might share with our community members and partners, and then also just their overall involvement and communication. So to help that come alive a little bit, I just want to share some of the ways that we've been able to measure some of the work that we have around community partnerships this year. The first one that I want to talk about is the 23-24 cultural calendar and guide that was put out earlier this year. That is a calendar that features so many district photos, but also it has a Heritage Awareness Month section with information. It was provided in hard copy form as well as it's linked to our website for our families. And the purpose of it was to really highlight cultural growth and diversity that we have in our very own community, and just kind of bringing everyone together with that. So that was one way that we utilized this. The next is that I want to highlight tonight. You may recall the Kiss a Cow event that was held earlier this year. I know Superintendent Hatzenmuller remembers the Kiss a Cow event. But the reason that I want to highlight it is we can think about it's fun and it's silly that we have an event where a cow is kissed by our administrators in the district. But what that really was bringing the community together for civic engagement. That was all about the February 2024 election. And the I voted stickers is what enabled the OMS to win that. It's what enabled all 4 of our schools to have conversations when the students went home with their families at night, to be able to connect them back to the work and the instruction that we have within our school. So we just feel like that really connected not only the, as I said, the civic engagement, but also our Future Farmers of America program that we have within our school. I've got 2 more. The next one that I wanted to mention is the Read Across Orning. I know some people were involved in that are here tonight, and even someone who organized it, I believe. But what we like about that as far as community partnerships is it really brought in so many people together. It's not just teachers reading to students and families that participated, but it was community members, principals, superintendent, board members. There was a variety of people, and that's a highly anticipated and tentative event. And then the last one that I wanted to highlight tonight is as part of our measures that we're able to look at is the Cultural Unity Fair. And I know that it's been highlighted a couple times this evening, but I just wanted to say that was something that sparked from an idea from another community in Washington State that some of our leaders participated in the past. They brought it to Orting, but at the high school. And this year was the first time where we've been able to expand that, and every single school participated in that, and therefore their families participated in that. So it really was a way to connect Orting to the community under the goal 2 of community partnerships. So with that, I'm going to let Erin take it over for goal 3.
So just a high five, you know.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I have Bold Child, which, interestingly enough, as I was printing off earlier our strategic plan, see what happened to my printer. The Bold Child is really about perseverance and really the idea of self-regulation. I love the equity statement around this, which it talks about surrounding people with dignity, which is that value. And I think that we're all successful because of that. And there's a big part of our value system as a district, but I think it really elevates that in kids. So when we talk about relationships, that's what we're doing. Is really surrounding kids with that dignity. So I love that statement. The things that we really looked at and accomplished this year in May, Kayla Kaling and I have been working really hard on getting a parent survey out, and so that's coming out at the end of this month. Getting out parents, I hear that the first round may be sparsely participated in, but we created one and pretty good. I like it, so it's coming out into May. The second thing we're really looking forward to is, I think that the numbers are going to come out, is that we'll have the most number of kids ever in the history of Orting that have participated in a dual credit class. So the numbers I've looked at most recently is, I know we're not supposed to talk about data, sorry yet, but make a poster of that one too. We have 711 kids out of 867 at the high school, which is 82% of the students dual credit, which is crazy. It also has the lowest disproportionality ever, which means it has the lowest number of kids in terms of like the way we disaggregate things by male versus female, BIPOC, those kind of things. And so it's pretty equitable as well, so that's pretty cool. I would account the special education, taking those research classes and spreading them out in gen ed, so that's one positive effect of that. Panorama, the way we really kind of record, ask kids really self-report their experiences within schools. Supportive relationships are at 89% so far. We have one more round, we're going to collect that data here pretty soon. Growth mindset is at 59%, which sounds low, but it puts us in the 99th percentile compared to every other school that does Panorama. Big deal, right? Self-efficacy is 52%. That's up 4%, which is a big increase. So those are huge. You talk about like surrounding kids and that value and that worth, that dignity. I think those are pretty good indicators. Okay, so next up is Mr. Rath.
I'm standing in for Jennifer, who is currently at a kind of multi-district event, which she is actually working directly with several of our families to access resources and funds for developmentally disabled students. So that was scheduled for tonight, and so she's directly serving our community right now and providing those resources for the families. So she asked me if I would just kind of mention specifically a couple of things from Goal 4. And first off would be really Goal 4, a big element of Goal 4 in our work represents our MTSS system. And MTSS is an acronym that stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. It's that idea of how are we doing with core curriculum, and when core curriculum isn't quite working, what do we do next? And if that's not working, what do we do after that? So Tier 1 is really what I was talking about earlier, which is that content and that pedagogy. So we're delivering to all students a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And so for some students that need more than that, there's a supplemental aspect of that that goes in, which would be a Tier 2 aspect of that. And then we have, for a few of our students, something that's needed more intensive. And so then we would also provide additional resources for that as well. Our process that Erin has been really working on very much with the buildings, whatnot like that, is tied to how we screen kids to identify what their gaps are and what their needs are. We establish intervention processes for that. We monitor the progress on that, and then we determine based on some of those outcomes over a period of time, do we continue with that intervention? Do we modify it? Do we need to intensify it? Because not every kid needs the same thing. And so when we really get into the equity statement on Goal 4, there's a couple of key really pieces on that. The first one is individualized support. That's a really big idea. And it gets back to what I said on Goal 1 about each student. So how are we taking each student and identifying that individualized support? And then you can also see in the last statement of the equity statement that it's for both academic and social emotional growth. Getting sort of what Erin was saying to the whole child. It's not just about the academics, but about who they are as people. So one of the things that we've been really working on, Erin again has been leading most of this work, trying to develop really clear and consistent structures within each of our buildings that include the kind of timelines that we like to have follow in terms of that inquiry process, that inquiry cycle of identifying, intervening, and then assessing. The kind of data that we use right now, our primary screener that we use across our system is AimsWeb. We're also discussing some of the gaps that might have and look at different types of screeners that we need to get more and even better information. And math would be one where that's really a need. And so we're looking at that as well. We are using certain tools. I mentioned earlier about the work that we're doing with our bookworms curriculum, and that has a whole structure of identifying kids and the intervention process built into that. That would be tier 1 and tier 2, but also in tier 3 of that, we're also using a tool called SIPS. And we've been piloting that this year, which is really kind of a fundamental teaching of literacy, phonemic awareness, and some of those kinds of things that some of these kids at multiple grade levels need. So we're going back and addressing those. We're also looking at piloting, we looked at the elementary tool to look at math numeracy. That can be a real big stumbling block for kids at any grade level. Really overall, what Erin's been trying to establish and set in place is the intentionality of the process versus scatter plot. And so where we would, well, let's just try this. Okay, well, that didn't work. Let's just try this. That didn't work. And you can get on that machine and really get going. So really build that structure that really has some intentionality. And so we choose a tool based on the data that we've collected and based on how we've identified what that data means. And that's coming as we're developing that and moving that forward. The second and last part of this would really be around the social emotional. There's a variety of different things we're doing there, but one of the things that Jennifer mentioned was she was most proud of is providing some mental health services for our families through a couple of different agencies that she's working with. These are referrals that can be made by the school or they can be made by the family, and then we provide at school, on-site mental health counseling for our students. So we think about our equity focus, and it's really zeroing in on the individual student, both in the academic as well as the social emotional learning, and that really kind of defines our student support system goal that we have. Erin's going to come and...
Can I ask one question? On the math, I can't, I guess I will anyway. On the math, is there, I know you've done a lot of research, and I think I understand kind of the concept, but is it possible that we could actually look at the curriculum ourselves, unless I missed that?
The elementary curriculum?
Yes.
The reduction? Yeah, it's right up on the,
Oh,
presentation, right up the table in the hallway, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, there's the middle school math curriculums up there, the elementary math curriculums up there, and then the social studies curriculums up there as
Okay,
well.
perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And I'd be happy to talk with you about any piece of that.
okay,
That's coming up too, by the way.
okay.
Okay.
Forward. All right, I'm gonna pander a little bit, if that's okay. Ed's looking like, no, don't do that. But anyways, it's just like you, Joanne, right? I'm gonna ask with you anyways, but I think not only do we have one of the best looking plans, I mean, it's beautiful, right? It's just absolutely beautiful. But I think it's, I just wanna thank the board really for its focus on equity. Because that's not only unusual, it shouldn't be, but it shows your values. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the kids and the community. You're doing great work. I really appreciate that. The last couple pages, I wanted to hit with you a little bit, talk about the strategies around that. We spent quite a bit of time during our board work session talking about the key strategies around that, and a word came up quite a bit. The word coherence has come up quite a bit. Coherence is really, do we have the focus, the universal focus throughout the plan, because this can be a stack of papers that's hopefully turned out better than mine, but where it sits on a shelf and we never use it. But that coherence in terms of how we're going to implement this is really going to make a difference for us moving forward to go into next year. Not only do we have an annual plan, we have a calendar of coming back and reporting on that data throughout the year, which I'm really excited about. We now have working on a website that's really going to have all of our data that's transparent, where parents can go on, a community member can go on, and really tailor that data according to what school they want to look at. We have the measures really allocated and looked at differently, depending on what you want to look at in each school. Our data is not only in two different ways. We look at the experience of people, but we also look at the numbers that the state and what we're accountable for as well. So I think it's a great plan. And I want to really say thank you very much for sticking with us and really giving us the opportunity to really evolve this over time. I know Ed has to create these new posters every year, but it's a living document, and I think it's something that we can be very proud of, and something that I know I'm very proud of. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I know this has been a work in progress, I just want to say again, I know I said it at our last board meeting, but I really value the retooling of this and what this looks like now. It's very clear and concise. So I really appreciate all the work, and I thank you.
And I thank you. No, you've done a great job, Karen. You all have. I can understand it, which is very helpful.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for that once again. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there anything within the consent agenda that needs discussion? Any questions? Okay, then I will entertain a motion. Do we need that?
Sorry.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Somebody who's not used to being here, I don't see that.
I motion that we accept the consent agenda 1 through 7.
I second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Consent agenda passes.
I will say that it was very helpful to look at all of the different things that we spend our money on. It's just a little bit, it was very detailed. It was eye-opening to see just all of the different ways that we spend money. Thank you for doing that. I'm sure it was you, Marcy.
Might have been. Next item on the agenda is our alternative learning experience as prepared by Mr. Steve Brown. Were there any questions or comments?
I just was, so the alternative learning, it's the learning that takes place at the high school for credit retrieval. That's kind of what the alternative learning is. Is that
It's
correct?
also, it's not necessarily just at the high school. It's through the
Okay.
company that we use to provide kids.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so you have that, and that, do you think that that also increases graduation rates?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Terrific. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the alternative learning experience program.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is the curriculum adoption and recommendation. Thank you for just staying right there. This one will be presented.
Yeah, there we
by
go,
Mr.
right, yeah,
Steve.
thank you. We're really excited to bring this to you tonight, and I know I've got some, see, look at the smile on that face. When I mentioned in my previous about the teacher agency thing, and I talked about how agency and dignity, and I said I'd get to this. When the elementary teachers piloted 2 different curricula, one that I was really fond of and in favor of, it was the same one that we used at the middle school, and so I had this vision in my head that we might have a K-8 thing or going on like that. We went through the process with integrity, and the teachers went through it with fidelity, and there were just two very different outcomes in terms of energy and enthusiasm for it, and that's where we get into honoring the agency and the dignity of the teachers, because they're really the ones that they did the work in terms of piloting it. They're the ones that came out and with one had a lot of questions, and honestly, even though they had a lot of questions and they didn't really like the illustrative math as much, they would still be willing to do it if we said that's where we needed to go. But that's not the recommendation we're making. We're making the recommendation that they were most in favor of, because You should have seen the energy in the room when we came together, and it was palatable. And they're the ones carrying the water. They're the ones that are doing the hard work. And when they get excited and they get enthusiastic about the work that they're doing, that just transfers directly over to the kids. And so we do have that recommendation for the Reveal Math K-5 math curriculum. And you've actually had an experience. Have you used the ALEC stuff a little bit?
I use it all. I do.
So this is a little bit not protocol, but I know how you feel about it. Would you say a word about the Reveal?
I can.
Yes.
I mean, I absolutely love the curriculum. It gives all kids access points, and it gives me many different entry points as well to like provide different learning experiences for different needs in my classroom. It also gives me the ability to differentiate with ease, which is something in math that's been really difficult because it's really just, not that I can't do it or I don't know how to do it, it's more of just time constraints of being able to design lessons for kids and, truly, get down to what they need. But with this curriculum, it actually will identify kids, like, down to the standard when they assess, and then I can actually just pull remediation work for them, like with a click of a button.
Nice.
I know exactly what I need to teach them, so I can pull them in a small group right away and do the work. Whereas before, it was like, it would take me having to find, the resource I needed in order to get the work done. And that, of course, as we know as a teacher, that doesn't always happen, right? Because, it's busy and there's a lot to do. So having that is, to me, life-changing. Like, I literally cannot express how much I love it. And my class will tell you how much I love it because, I would basically shout it from the rooftops if I could. But, yeah, it's been... The kids, they know where they are all the time in math. Like, they know what they need because the program gives them that, feedback right away. Again, another thing that is a time constraint for me as a teacher that I can't always control, right, how quickly I can get their feedback back to them. They're getting it in real time. They're taking an exit ticket, they get the feedback right away. There's different settings. I mean, I could go on and on, but there's different settings where I can allow them to see the errors they make. Like, so for instance, if they take an exit ticket with 3 questions, when they're done, I can choose to have an option where they can see the errors they made. Like, this program will tell them the questions they got wrong, and it will show them the correct way to solve it. And so I'll have kids now coming up to me and be like, oh, I forgot to do this, or oh, now I see where I made my mistake. And that is so powerful, right? And I tell them all the time that, mistakes are proof that you're trying, right? And learning, and so, yeah, it's amazing. I can't wait to actually use it from the beginning next year and get to use, it from the start. Anyway, so
when we look forward to implementing this for your approval, Brittany is going to be the math curriculum specialist, the math specialist for OES next year. So she's going to have the primary responsibility for the implementation process on this. That's the kind of enthusiasm you need to make this thing.
And she'll be great at it. You answered one of my questions, and it was about the assessment as it moves along. So you answered that. Is it accessible for, the materials?
I think it's very simple.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm able to assign and find, remediation tools and things really quickly. It may require, like, I'm fairly tech savvy, so,
You are.
it may be a little easier for me, but I think that with a little training, everyone will be able to do that quickly.
Well, I really appreciate that we honored the teacher's voice, because if it doesn't work for them, I don't know what the sentence is.
Right.
In spending all that money, and so I really appreciate it. And I know I heard from some kindergarten friends that they also liked it, so.
We had the opportunity, with a pilot, we had Brittany and grade level representatives from both schools that did the screening process, looked at the materials, made the decision on which two we would test, when we would do it, what units they would test. They did all of that background work. Then they went back to their teams and made it voluntary to participate with them in the field test. We had almost every single elementary teacher in the district field test both curriculums. So the testing field that we had was fairly large, and we surveyed the teachers at the end based on the criteria that we had set up with national math practices and stuff like that. And it was pretty clear what their experience was. Our process, there was similar process that we used throughout the whole system, which in terms of our criteria for selecting, but then how we do it could be a little bit different. So at the middle school, they didn't just pilot a unit, they've been teaching it all year long. And they wanted to see what this looked like, and so we've been providing training for them all year long. The high school social studies, the high school department has been actually looking at social studies texts and looking at opportunities for replacement for a couple of years, and landed on this one. So our process, we identify the material, we do the field test or the pilot we just talked about, we survey, we get information, we make a recommendation to the Instructional Materials Committee, and then that recommendation comes to you. I did want to just mention, because I told the Instructional Materials Committee that I would, we looked at the three curriculums, so the elementary math curriculum, the middle school math curriculum, and then the high school American history curriculum. Both the math curriculums just went like that. They liked it, went like that. We had a delay with the U.S. history curriculum. And it wouldn't be surprising why. It's American history, and a parent, but we had just under 50% representation for parents that were there, so it was really significant participation. And the way he described it, one of our teachers said, "Well, what's your reservation?" Because they weren't ready to give their approval on it in the first meeting. And he said, "Well, the elephant in the room is history can be politicized." And he said, "It's the representation of what our kids learn about our republic. And there's a lot of different opinions about how that should be done, and we're a little concerned about that." So we took some time, and we had them get an opportunity to dig in and look at the materials, and then come back and have the opportunity to say whether they would approve it. And everybody that came back to that second meeting did give their approval. They did have some reservations in some of the different parts of the curriculum that they felt was maybe a little bit slanted. But we had Amber Mayfield, the history department head from the high school, that was there to explain it, and she's explained this is how we approach it and this is how we do it. So once again, it was a teacher who was able to explain to the community, this is what this looks like and this is how we're going to use it, and then they gave their approval with those kind of the reservations that would be, you would kind of understand that, that was something that they would be concerned about. So with that, those would be our three curriculum proposals for your consideration.
Okay, on the math,
Yes.
so let's say you're a first grader and you're supposed to pass so many standards or be at a certain level, and they don't. So do they just pick up where they're at in second grade, or how does that work? Because I just know that sometimes I've seen before where kids miss certain things because they go on and they don't master what was done in first grade. So how does that work?
So there is a readiness assessment at the beginning of every unit, which is something new. So, and that readiness assessment, unlike a pretest, is actually measuring the pre-school standards that lead to that unit. So it's checking to see what their understanding is like of all the things prior
Okay.
in order for them to understand the unit. And that's been something, new and useful,
Yeah.
so that I can see where those gaps are before, digging into the new content.
Good, good, that's good, because I'm glad it has that. 'cause
And there's also an additional, I don't know about K2 so much since I'm 4th grade, but for the upper bands, 3 through 5, there's a program that runs alongside Reveal called Alex, which is essentially it's like AI, and they take a test that adapts to their ability, and it's able to identify their gaps
Wow,
for the grade level.
that's good.
So for instance, I had students all take it, and it's called a knowledge check. And I have students who knew right out the gate, 162 out of 172, mathematical ideas, whereas I had some who knew 23, at mastery anyway. So then that program actually will build a proficiency path for each child based on their unique need.
Wow,
So that's super impressive too.
that's great. And so the middle school has they're doing a different thing, but do they align well? Because so it's not like they get to 5th grade and then it's completely different at middle school. I just,
Well, there's two elements of that. Everything is standards-based, so everything's kind of based on the grade level standards. But the curriculum that we are recommending, it has a couple of different modes that you can do, and teachers have some flexibility with that. One would be, for lack of a better way of describing it, more of a little traditional mode. But they also have an inquiry mode, which is very similar to what the middle school is, which is you set a mathematical idea in front of kids, and you give them time to notice and wonder, have a conversation. Very, very similar in process to the middle school math curriculum. And so one of the things that Brittany will be doing next year as the specialist will be helping her teachers really push into that inquiry mode, so that we're doing that and we're really pushing kids for that conceptual understanding of the mathematics. Because with that conceptual, I call it conceptual Velcro, that conceptual foundation, it sticks.
yes.
The procedural stuff, we've been doing for years and years and years, and emphasizing, I talked about the math fluency speed test and stuff like that, that it doesn't stick for all kids. And in an equity lens that we're trying to do, we're trying to elevate those kids. One of the things, I use Jo Bowler as an example, and she says there's no such thing as a math brain. We believe that some kids are good at math, and some of us as adults probably think, Ed's really good at math.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself that good at math. But she's saying there's no such thing as a predisposition that some people can and some people can't. Now, some people with the algorithmic way of seeing it, and their brains work that way, they can put all these pieces together and they remember it. People like me, kind of a big picture, I need a little bit more conceptual understanding with which to kind of pull the pieces together and fit them. And if I have that, I'm going to remember it a lot longer, and so will our kids.
What was the name of that book that you were talking about?
Jo Bowler's book, Mathematical
Minds.
Mindset.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mathematical Mindset, yeah, it's really good.
For the K2, do the manipulatives come with it?
They are part of that package.
They are part of the package, okay. I didn't want to find out that later that, oh yeah, you gotta buy.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yep.
You also mentioned earlier when you were talking about the plan, you had mentioned sending a group of teachers for some training. And then here with the curriculum adoption, it also mentions training. Are those,
Different.
the training here is different, so there will be professional development
Yes.
from the developers of the curriculum.
Yeah, we're looking at that through a couple of different lenses, primarily because of what we have access to. So in August, when we have all the teachers together, there will be some onboarding training that's provided with that. But Brittany and her colleague at BTR and whatnot like that, we'll be pushing training into them specifically throughout the course of the year, kind of the train-the-trainer kind of a model, and then they'll be representing that and pushing that into their staff meetings and their PLCs and different things like that. because we'll have better access to elevate their expertise. The sub-shortage thing continues to be a problem, so pulling grade levels together to do that training has kind of become a thing in the past.
Who is it at PTO?
I
I'm not sure.
I think it's Sierra. I don't know if it's been official yet, so
Oh,
did
okay.
I was just put on tape when I said that. didn't I?
Well, good, because you announced Brittany, so I thought.
I haven't heard officially, so
Okay.
scratch that on the
If there are no other questions or comments regarding the curriculum adoption, I will take a motion.
I move to approve the 3 curricular adoptions as presented.
I second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
We thank you,
Motion
our
for
kids thank you.
I'm so glad to get rid of math expressions, right, Brittany?
And our final action item tonight, thank you, Ms. Goldpearl, for staying all night.
We have to argue this
Academic
agenda.
calendar.
I vote that I'm first. No, we're all good. So once again, however many years in a row, thank you for having me. And I'm here to be representative of the calendar committee. So a special thank you to Debbie and Holly and also Lovey Fisher, who represented PSE as part of this process. So our process hasn't changed greatly, other than I will say this was the easiest calendar we've gotten to build in a while. And you can just thank the way the days naturally fell this year. So the data, we did some research, looked online, looked at our neighboring districts. Some of our bigger districts will do 3 years at a time, so sometimes we'll get to see farther out what they have. So we actually were able to get some key dates like from Sumner this year, which we aren't always able to. Not that we need to match them, but our staff and our families sometimes like when that happens. And because the calendar is so obvious this year, I think it's going to match a lot of neighboring districts once they create their calendars. The unusual thing this year was we created our survey out to staff, and the results were very clear even in the survey data. So contractually with the OEA union, we're supposed to create 3 calendar options, and the survey data was so clear that we really didn't have a third choice to even create. So Debbie went with OEA and asked permission, hey, what do you think of just doing 2 this year, because we have this other data. Part of that is the language was created prior to having surveys. I can remember sitting in this room when it was the library and being the representative from the middle school, having to go and get everybody's ideas of what to take to the committee. And now we're able to bypass that because we can ask everybody their opinion in one survey and everybody can give an answer. So that's really kind of, I think, helped allow us to get more voice. The only downfall of the voice, I would say this year, was that we did not get a lot of community response this year. And we'll see that here in the information. So when we got the survey results, the community, we had less than 200 responses this year. Usually we're more 300, 400. Not sure the reason why. It went out in a couple different fashions, just did not get a lot of response. Staff response was pretty good. But you'll see here, looking at the numbers, that the numbers are really clear across the board. You know, the day before Thanksgiving is a little more clear on the staff side than the parent side. And the parents want their kids at school so they can cook without them there. But truly, I don't know that we've had surveys be that clear on both surveys in quite a while. So that's, again, just points back to why we ended up with just the 2 options. We didn't even put a winter break question on here this year because the 2 weeks with the 3 weekends falls naturally. We know that's what people typically always want, and it fell perfectly in place this year. So one thing you'll see that is a different result this year is people have requested to start school on the Wednesday after Labor Day instead of the Tuesday. If you look in the comments, there's a lot of comments about having a travel day for people that did go out of town. It also pushes your 4th day school count to the following week. It also has to do with your kindergarten start. Some of that pushes on to the week after instead of having to fall on a Friday. So there were some natural benefits. I will tell you, I continue to find it fascinating
survey results here was about 60-40, and you'll see in the voting, the numbers actually change and get closer, because they see what happens to the last day of school. It changes one day, and suddenly people say they'll start on Tuesday. It's just what they do. But yes, so basically, the only other additional question we had asked was, there had been some wonderings around our last professional development day that had traditionally been in January. It's now been moved to being attached to the holiday weekend in February. There was some question about whether PD could be on Friday and the snow makeup day on Tuesday, just flipping them. But when that was asked, 80% of people said, no, we just want to leave it the way it's been. So that question had come up. So the snow makeup day will continue to fall on Friday, and the professional development day, which would be no school for the students, will fall on Tuesday. So all of the calendars are the same as far as every legal holiday that falls during the school week. Our Thanksgiving, the winter break. We will continue what we've done this year as well as next year, which is to have a non-paid school day off at the semester to basically allow teachers to do grading if they choose to. Now, if they choose not to, they can obviously put it on another spot. But we used to have that grading day in the old system, and basically teachers are like, if we're in meetings all day long, that didn't work very well. And so that change has happened, and so that's reflected here. We'll continue with the 3 days in August that we have traditionally had with the day in February. We'll keep the 2 snow makeup days, both attached to extended weekends, so that a year like this one where we've been lucky, sorry, we do have a week to go before we hit that holiday weekend. But it does attach to the weekend nicely for families and staff. So we just put the 2 options out. Option A had school starting on Tuesday, and option B had it on Wednesday. I just want to point out it was 61-39, and magically it's now 53-47. With that said, it is still in favor of starting on Wednesday. I do think from the district standpoint of that advantage on the 4th day of school count moving into the next week, that is a benefit. Yeah, that's where we're at. So we would hope that you would support option B, which is what the staff had chosen. Which, one other thing I will point out, we do still have one day at the end of the calendar that we can push if we were to have a bad snow day. We can go Thursday the 18th. We have to consider the June 19th as a day off. So if we happen to have a really bad year, you would then get pushed into the next week. But we do have one more day we could add at the end. Because that is something new that we're going to tackle. And I'll warn you next year's calendar, if the other one gets ugly, because, yeah, we'll go back to all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, this one's beautiful, so we'll just call it good and say 2 options, and thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I'm just a little bit surprised because I've just heard from a few people that they wanted to put something in March because everyone hates March. I mean, not don't hate it, but it's such a long month, and, oh. What? Sorry. Do you want to answer that one, Debbie? Because it did come up. Oh, okay. And so Debbie ended up being part of that conversation more than I did, so I'm going to defer that answer to Debbie.
Yeah, there was interest in looking at the option of having a day off in March, and then there was conversation among the committee members, and I believe there was also a conversation with one committee member with that union where it was determined that it would be impactful to families in a way that might not be the best benefit for all, so we decided to scrap that idea and stick with the one that we had.
Okay.
It's childcare and other issues is what came up, and
okay.
So we did not put it up.
Thank you.
And the day that would have gone there would have still been a professional development day, so a huge chunk of your staff still would have been at work. So it may have been a day without the kids, but it wouldn't have been a day as a break.
Yeah, okay.
So. But yeah, any other questions?
I don't think so.
Awesome.
Informative as usual.
Same time, same place next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so need a motion to approve the calendar?
I move to accept option B of the 2025-2026 academic calendar from tonight's presentation.
I second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Calendar B for the year. concludes tonight's meeting. Are there any additional board comments?
I'm very glad that Brittany was here to answer our mail.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. That was informative. It's good to hear your perspective on that.
I'm excited to have a good math curriculum, that's for sure. Be nice.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, we shall adjourn the meeting at 7:31 p.m.